Everybody should get that overlay off. Majority of Democratic voters say marijuana legalization should be a priority for Democratic Congress. When reached for comment, Chuck Schumer said, "Of course, how I want it, though."
Andy got it.
Andy gets it. And so we will just take a small brief break from our prepared remarks regarding how many percentage of these Americans or that Americans, according to stuff that was released on Wednesday, to discuss the truffle, name that strain that we just covered. Here it is. It doesn't really have much. It's just weed strain. Reviewers on Leafly say the strain makes them feel relaxed, uplifted, and focused.
It is. I mean, this is a great one. I smoked in the morning. I'll smoke it maybe again in an hour. It doesn't make me overbearingly like an indica where I just like want to lay down for a minute. You know, I'm pretty. You can tell it's a hybrid. I mean, the indicas. I need to have a little bit indica in me because I need to feel that I am smoking weed. Because the sativas, it's like beer light for me. You know, I just keep on going. I'm like, when is it going to kick in? But no, this is a really good, tasty strain. Again, I said this thing is so stinky. When I take the bus, I feel bad because like I'm like waiting for someone to bitch about it.
When you say stinky, would you describe it as like loud, diesely, lemony, like
it's more
caryophyllene?
Yeah, caryophyllene. Yeah.
All right. So like you got some skunky stuff.
Yeah. It's definitely not citrusy or any of the lemon. Yeah. No, this is.
Yeah, that's some classic. And then it depends. Who knows what the description of the word loud was supposed to mean originally? That is something we should do a moment in weed history on later. But here's the breakdown of these Democrats that support ending marijuana prohibition and then how they actually broke down. So they asked registered voters from 13 different issues and the extent which they should be congressional priorities. 4 out of 10 voters overall said ending prohibition should be prioritized. Now we're up to 40%. Imagine if there wasn't an algorithm actively suppressing people that are trying to change the law because they say the wrong words and then fall into a algorithmic trap. And then overall 19% of voters said cannabis should be a top priority. So out of the 40, another 20% are like, yeah, well, they just get this over with already. And then 22 said important, but lower priority, while only 20% said Congress should not move to end prohibition. So that means like 80% want action to legalize it at a federal level.
But again, that's why we can't have nice things, because that number should be hella bigger for the ones who want to make it a priority, right? Like, how many other effed up laws and situations that we have going on right now that would change the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans, you know, just sweeping millions, everybody, you know, we'd no longer be criminals, you know, the industry would have to shape itself, but that's not the point. The point is to not be arrested anymore, to not be a stigma. And this is it's so disheartening, man, with the Democrats. Like, they just can't get the shit together. Like, when I watched that MORE Act, even and this guy wasn't Denver, he's a Republican, but out of Oregon, a legal state, you know, all these guys are doing are been bitching about, like, oh, they want to get America high, but we have a crisis at the border and all this other bullshit that I really don't care about. Like, there's, you know what I'm saying? All this deflection.
Crisis at the border. I mean, like, we have inflation problems caused by a pandemic that has China in its cage and Russia in a different country. Border crisis. It's not us. It's the rest of the world that's caught a case. What the heck? You know, we should at least be the ones who lead and do the rational thing and legalize it.
Well, and then again, we talk when anybody who talks about the border, whether it be R or D, you know, there's all this bullshit fear mongering about like drugs, and you know what? They wouldn't be coming across if there wasn't an American demand, right? Because the people buying that, for the most part, are wealthy as well too. So, you know, legalizing all drugs is always the answer as far as like having an understanding of how to like treat things, so your kid doesn't think coffee and heroin are the same, you know. But like, we're gonna lie to you about weed and heroin. Like, they're so displaced. It had good intentions, but it's not laid out the way it should be. It does not have the real common sense applied to it, you know. Whereas New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand. All right. Well, you hit the international.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Cannabis industry lawyer Tom Howard, and we're going to talk about conditional licenses today. Conditional licenses are all the rage in the cannabis licensing states, well, at least in various states. This one is out of New Jersey, and I'm going to bring on Miggy. Miggy, how familiar are you with these conditional licenses that, depending on which state you live in, is how that state is starting to regulate the process of licensing a new business entity?
I'm not. That's why they scare me, because isn't that conditional? I mean, you have to have a lot of things in order to, even before you apply.
No, the conditional is the opposite of that. New Jersey's conditional application process was only about 40 pages, but then like everything was maybe about 60, maybe a little bit more, because some of those disclosures were like 38 pages. But it's mostly, and I thought maybe we'd be going over the Connecticut one because it strikes me as a conditional style of license. And Illinois just came out with one as well. It is a smaller, stripped down license that is it's not a complete license. It doesn't give you the right to do the business. It gives you the right to, in the future, do the business, provided that you get the rest of the application done. So it is a way to reduce the barrier of entry by having certain basic information, for example, like the corporate formation documents, to prove ownership and control, especially if there's social equity aspects. Or you may have financial source agreements. You might not even need to disclose a real estate address. You might not need to disclose much, and then you may pay a small fee. Sometimes this is often done before a lottery. I would say that Washington State probably had a conditional license award. You won the license through the lottery, and then you had to get compliant with everything. So it's the thing that you do to determine whether or not you're going to even get the license before you have to build the rest of your application. And doing it that way can save entrepreneurs a substantial amount of money because they don't have to invest and write the entire 300-400 pages until after they know that they're going to be able to open for business, provided that they go get that 300 or 400 pages of application materials.
Are any of is there timelines to any of these conditional?
Conditional applications have many timelines. Very often there will be a deadline for you to get to the next step. And so the next step for the conditional in New Jersey, for example, is 120 days, but it can be extended for another 45 days. So it's like 165 days. Or in the case of Illinois, to get your dispensary open, you have like 6 months, 180 days, to find your location, and then another 6 months, 180 days, to build out everything and then be open as a dispensary, which would be your conditional licensure period. And then you have your annual license, your final license that allows you to actually conduct the business. New York's doing this as well with its dispensaries for its justice involved applicants. And they all look fairly similar. It's a lot of basic paperwork to describe who the people are that are applying, like resumes may be involved, for example. Personal financial statements may be involved. And then certain other basic materials. Like with New Jersey's, it was 40 pages of basic materials. It was a business and plan and management profile, and then it was also a compliance plan, 20 pages each.
Damn. But this conditional, did you say all the states have it? So,
nope.
Another question too. Huh? Not all states do.
No, they may have a conditional period. For example, like in Ohio, you got in a lottery and you won. And then after you win, or in Arizona or wherever, where you have a limited amount of licenses and then you have to win them. Or you have a period between the time that you're approved at one level of you can have the license and you can conduct business with the license. So that interim period is very often known as the conditional license.
Damn.
Yep.
And then do you lose if you can't meet your requirements? Then you lose your license, or you get to sell it?
That very often both, and you might be able to structure a sale, but that's like again the transferability of the license is a common thing in the industry. So they very often don't transfer the license as much as they sell the membership interest or the stock in the company, and then that license then didn't really transfer. The people behind the license moved.
Yeah, no, I get you now. Interesting.
Yep. And that's it. That's our little How to Cannabis segment on conditional licenses.
I'm back to work.
Yep. Back to it.
I just want to lay in bed and watch TV today.
Really? Is it just not that nice out there?
Nah, it's overcast.